Hello, this is Ralph Williamson, and I'm here to interview a a state representative, Dr. Rosemarie Allen. We're interviewing her on family and community engagement.
Thank
Okay. Um, how are you, Dr. Rose? Would you like to introduce yourself?
you. Sure,
Other.
I will. Hi, everybody. I'm really excited to be here. I have so many roles, but for this interview, I am in the role of state representative as a commissioner on the Early Childhood Leadership Commission, appointed by the governor to provide insight, guidance, using my skills and talents to enhance the world of early childhood in Colorado. I'm
Thank you very
also, should I also say I'm a professor at MSU and the president and CEO for IRE.
Right. Thank you very much. Okay. All right. So let's get into the first question. First question, from your perspective as a state leader, why is family community engagement a critical component of a strong educational system?
Well, one of the things we have to understand is that when you go into schools, when you're working in a community, you need to know the community because children don't show up alone. Children are intrinsically attached to families. It is their families that are their first, best, and most consistent teacher. So, in order to truly provide services, education, mental health needs of a child, you must have that family engaged because that family will help you understand who that child is. And the family exists within the community. And when you really conduct asset mapping, learn how the family is attached to the community and understand the community resources and the assets of that community, then and only then can you provide optimal services. For example, here in Colorado, if this child lives in Denver, the Denver metro area, and for example, is an African American, then you need to know what church that child's going to. Who's the pastor? Because that pastor is influencing that family and the child. Do you know who Brother Jeff is from Brother Jeff's Cultural Cafe? Do you know who's at the Denver Buddhist temple if the child is Buddhist? Do you know who is at the Denver Muslim Society, who the child's imam is? So you need to know and understand the child and the community from their perspective. And then we say family engagement, but it's really service provider teacher engagement. How are you engaging with that family and community? And then you can have the reciprocity of having that child and family engage with you.
Wow, that's very interesting, and that's a very full concept.
Oh,
Yes.
thank you.
Okay, great, great. And then another question. Many educators report unprepared to partner with families from diverse cultural and linguistic backgrounds.
Mhm.
What can what can you do to ensure that teacher and director preparation programs are required to include robust training on culturally responsive family engagement?
Thank you so much. It's such a great question. And the first step is really acknowledging that we are not prepared to work with diverse families and communities. We are more segregated today than we ever were before Brown versus Board of Education. We do not interact with people who look, think, and speak differently from us. And it's just the way it is. When you have a teacher workforce that is 80% white and our neighborhoods are very segregated, this is very likely that those teachers are not interacting with diverse families. So at MSU Denver, we are uniquely positioned to prepare teachers to work with diverse families and communities. For example, in early childhood, our teachers have 4 field experience classes. And and they also are mandated to take a class called Cultural Socialization of Young Children. And in this class, students go all to places all over the Denver metro area that they may not have gone to before. They go to a Muslim mosque, they go to a Buddhist temple, they go to a Black church, they go to a Jewish museum, they may go to a powwow depending on the timing of the class. So they are going to these places not as tourists, but to really observe and analyze how children learn, their relationships with their families, how the church or religious organization helps to socialize that children in that context. So that's one class that really puts them there live, upfront, and personal. But also in the Teaching for Social Justice, which is a field placement, those students are placed in a school that's probably unlike anything that they've been in. I taught that class for many, many years, actually created it. And the students are placed in a class where they can see inequities up front, but the children in that class that they now have to spend 35 hours in, their families are there to learn to speak English. So in this classroom, there may be four languages. And when you ask how are we preparing them to deal with linguistically diverse students, in that class, the last time I taught the class, children were speaking Mandarin, Farsi, and Spanish, and English, of course. But the students had to create, it was part of an assignment, they had to create five critical phrases and five critical responses of every language taught in that classroom.
Wow.
So, for example, the five critical statements in Spanish may have been, just something as important as buenos dias, ¿cómo estás? Or how can I help you? Or what do you need? Are you feeling sad? And then they had to come up with what the child might say in response to those questions. And a big part of their success in that class was that when I came to observe, they had to speak all those languages. They had to use those phrases. So that prepared them to work with children who may be diverse in terms of their linguistics. So those are just some of the things that we're doing in our teacher prep program to prepare our students for working with diverse families.
Wow, very, very interesting. Great. Great answer. Great.
Thank you.
Okay. And then now, a significant finding from the study of ARPA
Hmm.
funded students. Funded students was a powerful psychological impact of the investment.
Hmm.
Educators reported feeling personally validated and that the state had their backs. How can the legislature continue to send this message of professional respect and validation to our state's educators?
Ralph, I absolutely love this question because Dr. Chaplain Rodriguez and I just conducted the study where these findings came from.
Wow.
We were honored with the opportunity to be Bell Policy Fellows, and we conducted a study of students who received these ARPA funds because we wanted to know the benefits of this funding. Because so many times we get money and we just throw everything on the wall to see what sticks. So we asked the questions to students, what benefited you the most? And the most surprising outcome of that was the validation
Wow.
that students felt highly validated in early childhood because the state decided to pour money into their education. So that was the most surprising study of all. They felt validated, they felt like they mattered. We saw this also during the pandemic when early childhood folks were deemed essential. And it was noted that this economy could not recover or even be sustained without the work of early childhood professionals providing care for their children while they worked. So those ARPA funds really made a difference. And if I were to make one recommendation, I would say for them to continue so that our workforce can not only be highly educated, but so that they could feel this sense of efficacy. Also, that was another finding of our study that teachers felt more confident in their ability to care for children and to relate to families.
Wow, that's great. That is really a great answer. And then that really helps our community.
Mhm.
Okay. And what are your thoughts on fund on what are your thoughts on funding ongoing professional development opportunities, such as mentorship programs or mental health supports to prevent educator burnout and to improve retention?
I think is absolutely essential. There was a study conducted, about 8 years ago on Head Start teachers and found out that of all teachers working in the field from university level all the way to family child care homes, that Head Start teachers are very, very stressed. We continue to create requirements of our teachers, policies and practices. We're expecting them to do more with less. And they're experiencing burnout at astronomical rates. Our teachers need supports. We can't keep asking them to pour from an empty cup. Who's taking care of the caretakers? Who's taking care of the teachers? We have to do that. We're always talking about early childhood mental health consultants and support. Who's supporting the teachers? Who's supporting the teachers who's supposed to be caring for children who are experiencing trauma, who are living in poverty, who are having what? Gun drills, violent drills? Who's taking care of a teacher who has to ensure the safety of 20 children in her classroom should a mass shooting occur? Who's dealing with the psychological load of that? So I believe we must invest in our teachers in terms of their mental health. How can we continue to require them to take classes without paying for them? They are the lowest paid of all educators. We need to subsidize professional development, and we need to prepare our teachers to work with children who may have experienced trauma. And again, living in poverty, those who are homeless, those who are newcomers in terms of refugees and immigrants, those who are experiencing ICE raids. Ralph, you remember we were at the office and we just saw ICE trucks, just sirens blaring. What happens to the people who are victims of that when children are in school the next day? How are we preparing our teachers? And not only that, how are we preparing teachers who also fear ICE raids, not only for themselves, but for their families? So that's a long, drawn out answer to yes, it's essential.
Yeah. Yes, no, and I agree with you. And that really isn't a long drawn out answer because me as a licensing specialist,
Hmm.
I have witnessed teacher burnout.
Yes.
Right after COVID,
Hmm.
we've noticed it coming through with complaints.
Hmm.
And as I go on the complaints, the teachers were saying they're done. They were, there there was a lot of teachers that did quit right after COVID, after coming back.
It's a
So
lot. And
yeah,
we haven't even talked about the challenges that they're facing in the classroom, the behaviors that they find challenging, the stress of families, that they're not getting the supports they need. So not only do we need to prepare our teachers, but we need to really provide training for directors and how to support our teachers.
great, great answer, great answer. Thank you very much. Yeah. Okay. The early childhood workforce is predominantly composed of women of color,
Mhm.
who have been historically underpaid and have limited access to career advancement. How is how is your department ensuring that new policies for ECE sector are designed with the equity lens to close the wage and opportunity gaps?
Thank you. That's an excellent question. It's very close to my heart. And as a commissioner on the ECLC, equity is front and center for me. I believe I was asked to serve because of my equity lens. And in order to really address the inequities in early childhood, we have to go back to history. We have to go back to the historical roots of early childhood. And we have to acknowledge that early childhood was founded on the backs of enslaved women in the 1600s, when Black women were forced to care for white children at the expense even of their own children. So that free labor Black women caring for white children became the basis for early childhood. How so? So after emancipation in 1865, the 13th Amendment, now these women were freed, but they were still required to care for white babies. They became the domestic servants, still on free labor, still in most cases, and if not, when they were not tenant farmers, but I'm forgetting the word. Ah, I can't think of it. So
Sharecroppers? Sharecroppers?
sharecroppers, thank you so
Right.
much, Val.
Okay.
That even that labor then was free. And then even during the war, the labor was free. So what happened is even when they began to get paid, they were paid so minimal because you already established caring for babies as free. So it's like, okay, we'll pay you, but we're not going to pay you much because you're just babysitting. We're still fighting in early childhood not to be called babysitters. So when you think about where we started, it shouldn't be a surprise to see where we are. It's sort of like when you start a new job. And I tell people all the time that I mentor, when you are offered a job, you have one opportunity at that agency to set a salary. So, whatever salary you accept, let's just say you accept a salary of $25 an hour, that becomes your base salary. And every raise from that point is based on that $25 an hour. So, your next raise will be a dollar more. Now it's $26 an hour. Then your next raise may be $2 more. Now it's $28 an hour. But do you see how it's based on that 25 that you started with? That's the same way with childcare. You went from free. So
Wow.
everything that we have now is based on free. And that's why we're so underpaid and so undervalued because of the historical roots. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Great, great, very
Oh,
nice.
and I didn't talk about the professional development. So because it was free and you didn't have to have an education and mostly built on the backs of Black women, now women of color comprise 40% of the early childhood workforce. And Hispanic women are really relegated to the lowest pay and the lowest status, mostly in the infant and toddler rooms. In the same way with Black women, and it's very rare they're given the opportunity for professional development where they don't get tuition reimbursement, they're not relieved to go to professional development activities and things like that. So again, it's still coupled with the historical roots.
Wow. Interesting, very interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So now, what are some of the most pressing challenges you hear from local families and educators involved regarding school and community partnerships?
Well, the complaint that I hear the most is that families do not believe that schools and teachers care about their children. They don't believe they care about them, they know them, or they're interested in adapting teaching practices or engagement practices to fit their needs. Working families feel um, ostracized, that they're putting their children in childcare and not taking care of their own children. Families who receive subsidies, such as CCAP, they're made to feel like they're poor and they don't matter and they're treated that way, that they're poor. And young teen moms or moms in their early 20s, they're made to feel like they don't know anything about their child and that the teachers are professionals. They feel that teachers don't understand child development, so they kick their children out for really crazy, dumb reasons, and we know that to be true. Black and Hispanic men feel feared at schools, that teachers are afraid of them, so they're heavily surveilled and asked for ID even after they've been to the school many, many times. If a teacher is there alone and the child is being picked up near closing and a Black or Hispanic man come to pick up, they notice the fear and wonder why they don't even know who they are. And then this whole idea that most engagement activities happen during school hours, that these families have to work. And when you are having open house at 5 o'clock and they don't get off till 6, that's a problem. Or when they're required to come in during the day. That's a serious problem for them. And then even when they don't come right away to pick up a sick child, that there are families who whose job is so perilous that calling in sick is a problem. When I was a director, I had a family say, my child has a fever. I know I shouldn't bring them. I'm going to bring them. Please give me an hour at work and then call me to come pick them up. Because it's easier for me to leave work if you call me than for me to call in sick. So things like that, just working together with families rather than saying, I'm the professional and I know, or these parents just don't care about their kids, and really, really engaging with families to find out what their needs are, meeting them where they are is important.
That's very interesting, yeah, because me as a single father, I have experienced that. Actually, I had to leave a job
Mhm.
because I had to pick my daughter up at a certain time.
Mhm.
And after that time limit, that was it. It was no way to get her. I had people, some other community members helping me, but it was really rough. I can relate to that.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Mhm. Right. Okay. Moving on. Okay. Looking ahead 5 years, what is your vision for the ECE system in our state regarding excuse, regarding how communities and family can support their can community engagement will evolve. Okay.
It is my hope that first we have a really highly educated, robust, highly compensated workforce. That's key. Teachers have to feel valued and they have to feel that they can make a living, a livable wage. I think that's important. And we also want families who are um, excited to be engaged with the school. And how does that happen? It happens when teachers, especially those who don't live in the areas where they teach and serve, that they're in the community, that they see them at the supermarket, they see them at church, they come to their community events, that they know who the important people in their community is, and that teachers understand that when they are at a school or at a doctor's office or a mental health consultant, any of you who are in this class and whatever service you're providing, that you understand you're a guest in that community. That community belongs to the people who live there. It's not your community, so you don't come in with my rules, my expectations, my school. It's not yours. The family's on the B team. They'll be there when you come and be there when you go. So you go in and you learn how they do it and you value them. My ideal world would be a world where service providers and teachers visit families and have a cultural type assessment. Tell me your hopes and dreams for your children. What do you hope for them? How can I help you meet these goals? Rather than coming in and saying, welcome to my space. These are my rules and my expectations. When that's reversed, I think we will see children and families flourish in ways we've never seen before.
Oh, great, great, great. And so that was really interesting.
Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, this will really be wrapping up our interview. And it was so great to be able to get this interview with you. I'm sure everyone know that we are family members also.
That's
So
my baby brother.
right.
Yes.
Yes. So it was great. So thank you very much.
And thank you so much for having me. I really, really appreciate it.
All right. Okay.